Welcome everyone to Wrasslin Raw!
You're listening to Wrasslin Raw, the podcast that takes you back to when the new generation took over the WWF. Thank you for joining us. You're here with Ryan Arico.
Bartlett, you're used to being triple teamed. Well, this time, you're going to be triple teamed by one man.
So disgusting on so many levels. Joe Giammatteo.
Very disgusting. I have nothing to say. That just grossed me out so bad. Sorry. No intro.
I'm the one and only victim here, Jason Bartlett, and we're going to examine WWE history one episode of Raw at a time. But first, the winner of the first ever inaugural Wrasslin Raw t-shirt contest, Tom from the UK. Out of the hundreds of thousands of entries that we received on both Twitter and Instagram, we were very, very happy to select our buddy Tom from the UK.
Yes, the most loyal of all fans. No offense to any of our other 100,000 fans, but
yeah,
Tom is the most loyal.
He is really. It couldn't have gone to a better mark, and Tom, we will be contacting you to get your size and shipping address and all that good stuff. So, that being said, in this episode of Wrasslin Raw, we're going to be talking about the Raw that aired on March 13th, 1995. This Raw was recorded at the Memorial Civic Auditorium in Stockton, California, and features Vince McMahon and Jim Cornette on commentary. Are you guys ready?
I am ready.
I'm ready to be triple teamed. Yes.
Oh, boy. All right, then, let's get into it. Get out the lube. So for our intro sequence tonight, Vince is going to be roaring the complete history of the Jerry Lawler-Bret Hart feud, starting with the King ruining the Hitman's King of the Ring coronation back in 1993. At one point, we get a clip of Lawler from Superstars claiming that Bret Hart is the most prejudiced person you'll ever see, and that he's a racist, and he thinks racism is an Olympic event. Because, I don't even know. I don't even know about that. Also tonight, the Blue Brothers from the Appalachian region will take on the former tag champs, the 1-2-3 Kid and Bob Holly, wink wink. Also in action, Double J, Jeff Jarrett. Cue the music. Welcome, everyone! And the first thing we're told is apparently the 1-2-3 Kid and Bob Holly are stuck in a traffic jam somewhere.
Crashing into walls.
They're not going to make it. There has been a substitution, and this is going to take us into our first match of the night. The Blue Brothers versus the Head Shrinkers, which is going to end in a double count-out in 8 minutes even. Cornette surmises for us that the real reason Bob Holly isn't there tonight is because he wrecked on his way to the arena. And then Vince puts over Bob Holly as driving the WWF race car at an upcoming race. And guess what, guys? I had to do a deep dive into this because my bullshit meter was going off quite a bit. So I did a bit of research here, because I was genuinely curious about Bob Holly's racing career, since there wasn't a whole lot of quality material to talk about with this match. I figured we'd fill some time with the racing career, the real racing career of Bob Holly. So for the record, pre-WWF, Bob Holly was a legit racer under his, normal civilian name in Mobile, Alabama. And that's something that's never really been in dispute. He was a racer before becoming a wrestler. He was a local success there. He won the local track championship there. However, after entering the WWF and getting saddled with the racer gimmick, Bob Holly only ever actually raced in one race that I could find. You guys will remember that he crashed his car during the warm-up laps after a fellow racer bumped him off the track. So, in the Snowball Derby, he never actually made it to the real race. That one doesn't count. The one and only race that he did participate in was in the 1995 Phillips 66 doubleheader number 2. This was part of the NASCAR, I'm pretty sure NASCAR, Slim Jim All-Pro Series. This was race number 12 of 21 in the series. Sparky placed 16th out of 29 racers and completed 192 out of 200 laps before somebody else won the race. So, basically finished his one race in the WWF car, 8 laps behind and with an intact vehicle, surprisingly enough. This was the most readily available internet information. I didn't go and comb the secret archives of NASCAR or anything, so if some NASCAR fan wants to blow me up, that's fine. Go ahead and do it. I don't really give a shit. But I will say that back then, in 1995, my family were race fans. Not hardcore, but enough that I know the names from back then. I know who was popular back then. And the names on the race card that old Sparky was going up against.
Dick Trickle.
The B Squad.
Yeah, this wasn't a main event, so to speak. And also something that I found really interesting.
Enhancement talent he was going up against.
Well, I think Bob Holly was the enhancement talent in this race. And from a purely brand sponsorship level, because Vince likes to talk up, the WWF car. The WWF car was right up there in sponsorship with Penrose Meat Snacks and the Circle Bar Motel and RV Park. So, top tier advertisement going on there. And that's it. That's everything there is to know about the real racing career of Bob Holly once he was saddled with the racer gimmick. Hopefully we never have to bring it up again.
It's still real to me, damn it.
Hey, I was glad to find out that he actually finished a race.
That is exciting, yeah.
He didn't come anywhere near winning.
Because all we ever heard about is the Ice Princess ball or whatever.
The Ice Princess. I'm sure he would love to hear you saying that. Well, back in the match, the Head Shrinkers are out first. Fatu and Sion, followed then by the Blue Brothers, and I can't help but wonder how raging of a hard-on Cornette must have had for these two old-school gimmicks going up against each other. And for anybody that's wondering, there are SS tattoos on the Blue Brothers. Two fine examples of Americans right there. And that's sarcasm, by the way, folks. Fatu kicks it off by stomping the "We Will Rock You" beat to try to get the crowd riled up, and I was having flashbacks of Emi Sakura in AEW. I was about ready to vomit. The Superstars trade tie-ups, and after some corner action, Fatu, the eventual Rikishi, does some dancing, and I hate it. The action here is mostly slow and paced, power moves separated by stalls of slow movement and out-of-the-ring hijinks. We cut to commercial on a pinfall. Really horrible timing there. And come back to the action continuing and a replay of a poorly executed clothesline. There's a lot of heavy emphasis in the storytelling here, both with in-ring action and commentary, and it's mostly centered around the fact that the Blue Brothers are identical twins and can't be told apart. They are switching each other out when the ref isn't looking, getting the fresh man in as often as possible. Sion lands a dangerously incomplete scoop slam on one of the Blue Brothers, almost concussing whichever one of them was in the ring. I'm kind of with Vince on that one. It's hard to keep track of which one it is, because the way that you keep track is by noting which arm the SS tattoo is on. And they do a pretty good job of keeping the camera away from those arms for any length of time, so they do make it kind of hard to keep track. Then Fatu comes in for the rally, and you can really see some proto-Rikishi character here. He lands a super kick, does some more ridiculous dancing, and then continues with the offense. Whichever Blue Brother he's going after here tries to headbutt Fatu into the mat. This causes Fatu to pop up, dance a little more, and then super kick the Blue Brother again. Now the fight goes to the outside, both tag teams fighting their way up the entryway, conveniently exiting themselves from the arena while the referee does a fast count and calls for the bell. There is a booing from the audience. I thought it was really great that they didn't even try to milk this chaos at ringside. They moved it right up the entryway and out the fucking door. And that's it. This match is over. Joe, why don't you get us started on this match?
Well, most of the notes I have to do with kind of the change in the head shrinkers that we're seeing, especially Fatu, because it really seems like we're getting early signs of Rikishi during this match. He is definitely putting on a different type of gimmick during this entire match, doing all the dancing and Emi Sakura, Freddie Mercury shit. So, I mean, that was kind of interesting. I think that Fatu ends up being a singles wrestler later this year, so maybe that's kind of what he's experimenting with. I think maybe Sion, maybe they know he's on his way out, so they're just kind of experimenting with that. The Blue Brothers, I don't know, there's nothing really that impressive about them. They're huge guys, but I don't really have much else to say about them at this point. Vince is wearing a nice Raw turtleneck. I don't know if you guys saw that.
Yeah,
pretty stylish. Yeah. Overall, I think it's nice to see the head shrinkers back. It's been a while since we've seen them, but you can definitely tell they're evolving into something else.
You know, from the beginning, I was excited when I heard that Bob Holly and the 1-2-3 Kid were going to be in this match, because from the limited amount of stuff we've seen out of the Blue Brothers, they're not horrendous. So if you put them in the ring with some good workers like them two, who knows what would have turned out, but that wasn't to be, and we got the head shrinkers instead. And this type of match just isn't going to match up well, because they're both big, slow powerhouse teams, and that's kind of all we got was a slow, boring match. I mean, neither one of them are really bad. It's just, this isn't the type of matchup that you want to have between two powerhouses, and it was just too slow. Like you mentioned, definitely a evolution of the head shrinkers here, especially Rikishi. I'm just going to call him that because that is what he has become in this match.
Yeah.
I mean, dancing, doing the ass shaking, and I mean, he's doing it all here. He's just missing his ass hanging out is about the only thing missing from the Rikishi character at this point. There was the one point, Bartlett, you brought up, after one of the Blue Brothers does this very long telegraph and Sione lands like a chop and then a big clothesline, and then they just cut to commercial as he's going for the cover up, and it just was really awkward, and it just took me out of it, you know?
It seems like that happens when they do live shows. This is a live show, and I feel like that happens a lot.
Yeah, I wonder if it's just we've hit the TV mark, we have to go to commercial no matter what. You know, like in football, they have a little bit of leeway as to, okay, we'll wait to some type of break in action. But maybe they didn't have that leeway with USA Network. I'm not going to completely hate on the match because, as I said, they're both okay teams, but they just don't look good together.
Yeah, I'm going to echo pretty much everything here. We're in agreement on that. And we were talking about this earlier. The word that kept on coming up for me, especially with this match, but again, in a few more spots throughout this episode, is lukewarm. Don't hate it, don't love it. It's just kind of there. This particular match, though, I'm willing to give it a pass because, I mean, it was obviously thrown together on the fly. I wonder how much of that timing issue that you mentioned, Ryan, with going to commercial, I wonder how much of that was centered around the fact that they kind of just had to slapdash throw this match together at the last minute, you know?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And I think that contributes to that weird exit. I mean, how often do we really see... I mean, we constantly see chaos at ringside to end a match, and we semi-frequently see double countouts end this way because everybody's outside and, you know, fucking around. But in this particular case, they fought their way right up the entryway and out the fucking arena. You know, it seems like somebody at some point told them that they needed to go home, and they were like, okay, punch, 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 let's get out of here, punch, 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 you know? Mm-hmm. As far as the conflict in styles, I almost wonder if this could have been a better match if there hadn't been that progressive evolution of the head shrinkers here. If they had, and I mean, it's all academic now, especially with Sione being in this instead of Samu, but if this had been the original Samu and Fatu head shrinkers with their mindless, savage type character gimmicks, I think this would have been a better match. I think I don't even know, could you call it grandstanding? I kind of do. The grandstanding of Rikishi here, and you're right, both of you, this is Rikishi all over the freaking place. The only thing we needed was those damn wraparound sunglasses and 2 white guys to do the worm next to him.
And the ass hanging out.
And the ass hanging out, yeah. And the, what was his finisher called? Well, yeah, the cellulite, but...
The stink face.
The stink face, that's right. I was waiting for it. It never happened.
No.
I was more put off by Sione in this. He never really fit in before, and he fit in even less here. It seems like nobody really clued him in on the more fun-loving gimmick that Fatu was moving towards here, because he was trying to do his powerhouse thing, and it just wasn't, I don't know, it wasn't melding well. So, lukewarm. Best way to describe it, I think. But we're going to move it along to our next segment now, and it's going to start with comments from Lawrence Taylor about the LT Bam Bam situation. This is like a video package here, so we've got words on the screen, and then Lawrence Taylor saying what he thinks about those words. Just to paraphrase some of it, on confrontations, LT says he doesn't run from them, that's what makes a man a man. On the odds, he's been going against them his entire life. On game day, he's going out like a bunch of crazed dogs. And, because that one kind of didn't make sense to me, but LT will be having his all-pro team with him. That's Carl Banks, Chris Spielman, Ricky Jackson, Ken Norton Jr., Reggie White, and Steve Mongo McMichael. Next, we'll have some brief comments from Steve Mongo McMichael, and he states that he's tickled pink to be part of LT's team. He looks it, too. Mongo is going to be showing up on Monday Night Raw next week, because I guess Kama's been talking some shit. I don't remember that happening, but okay. The $1 Million Team is going to have some comments about the situation. Bam Bam, the $1 Million Man, Tatanka, King Kong Bundy, and Kama. There are some unfortunate things said by King Kong Bundy here that involve a large human being triple teaming a person. Vince is going to take us to comments from WWF and NFL legend, the Big Cat, Ernie Ladd. Vince verbally gives Ernie Ladd a blowjob in his introduction, and Ernie Ladd gives a great mini speech. I had to note here that this is the first time I personally have ever heard Ernie Ladd speak. I've only ever heard people doing impressions of him. Like, I've heard people doing Ernie Ladd impressions for years now at this point, but I've never actually heard the man himself speak. And to me, he sounded like a mix of Morgan Freeman and Aaron Neville. In total, though...
What? I didn't hear the Aaron Neville. I didn't hear the Aaron Neville in there.
Little high pitched. Yeah. Just a little high pitched, but with the cadence and pacing of Morgan Freeman.
You sound like Cleveland from Family.
Yeah, that was a little bit of Cleveland there.
Well, maybe that's a better comparison. He sounds like Cleveland.
Maybe, yeah.
Well, in total, though, I thought that was some really great material from the Big Cat, Ernie Ladd. A great promo from him. Before we move on, Ryan, what did you think of all of this talk from these various sources about the LT Bam Bam situation?
I thought LT's, we've said it before, but I'm just going to repeat it for a non-wrestler. I thought this was a pretty damn good little promo he cut here. It was short. Maybe a sentence or two was a little bit of a head scratcher on the meaning, but the delivery was excellent, and I got to give him props. Good job. Steve, it was okay. I don't know what happened with this Kama deal. The last we heard was Kama even in the corporation.
Well, I wanted to ask you guys about that.
We find out later in this episode that he is.
Yeah.
So there we go. And then the corporation thing, that was just kind of, hey, every single one of them, let's get your 2 cents as they bounce between each member. I was impressed by the Big Cat. He did a good job here. It came off as very believable, like he was actually, worried about LT's health going up against Bam Bam in his arena. I thought he did a good job. I liked it.
So I think that the stuff with the football guys to me, it just comes off a bit flat. LT was good. But for me, the other guys, I feel like, they got some pretty big football names in Reggie White and Ken Norton Jr., but I don't know. I just feel like it's forced. They're just kind of there. It's not believable that they really want to be there to me. I don't know. It just falls kind of flat for me. And I feel like most of the wrestling fans probably also watch football, so it's not like you're really drawing in new fans by having these guys on. But I don't know. That's just me. That's how I feel about the whole thing right now. And the $1 million team promo was kind of flat as well. It's just like, hey, everybody gets something to say. And it's really, it doesn't go anywhere for me.
Yeah.
But I agree with you guys on Ernie Ladd. I mean, he's known for, cutting pretty great promos. And you always hear guys like Jim Ross talk about him and how great he was. Obviously, he's before our time. And Bartlett, I'm with you. I never really heard any of his promos until this. Isn't this the guy that JR always says, I'd rather fight a man than make love to a woman? Isn't that Ernie Ladd?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, I looked up a couple of his promos on YouTube after watching this, and it's pretty good stuff. But I will say that, and Bartlett, you kind of mentioned this before, how you didn't really like Vince as an interviewer. Was that during the Diesel interview, maybe? Something else?
Yep, that's exactly what it was.
I felt that way during this. I just feel like Vince came off as a total tool during this whole interview. Like, it was just weird. His behavior was distracting to me.
The Raw turtleneck didn't help either.
No.
It might have, instead of saying Raw across the neck, it should have said Tool. Yeah, I completely agree with you guys here. Once again, lukewarm.
Carl Banks, by the way, looked like he was high as fuck. I have no idea who he is.
Yeah, me neither. I don't know any of these people. I know Ken Norton Jr. because we got that hilarious
because he's going to WrestleMania.
Yeah, that 10 seconds of footage
for 30 grand
for 30 grand. I know Reggie White just because I was conscious in the 90s. Reggie White was a pretty big fucking name in the 90s. I know Steve Mongo McMichael from the ongoing involvement that he has with Wrasslin after this. So aside from that, I don't know who the fuck Carl Banks is, or Chris Spielman, or Ricky Jackson, really.
I know who Carlton Banks is.
Who?
Carlton.
Oh, my goodness.
Not Carl Banks.
Oh, okay. Yeah, Carlton. Now I'm good. But yeah, this whole NFL football thing, it's just milking it, like milking it. I thought that after watching this, I thought that it would have been much more like dramatic or emotionally engaging if it was like Lone Wolf LT here and not some pack of fucking people at his back. Like if it was just like one man coming off the gridiron and taking on Bam Bam Bigelow and, let the chips fall where they may. I thought that would have been a better story to tell here, as opposed to here's LT and he's bringing in all of these fucking football players with him for no goddamn reason. It just really smacked of opportunism, which we really shouldn't be surprised by. As far as the $1 Million Team goes, I'm with you guys. Just everybody had to get their 2 cents in, and it was flat. The Big Cat Ernie Ladd, amazing. I wish I would have gone and looked up some more of his stuff after this. I'm probably going to do that whenever we're done recording here, actually. But yeah, that was probably the biggest takeaway from all of this is I'm glad to be able to say that I finally got to hear an Ernie Ladd promo. Vince was a total tool, interrupting him and just ugh. But after this segment, it's going to take us into our next match. Double J Jeff Jarrett defeats Barry Horowitz by submission in 4 minutes and 40 seconds. Double J comes out looking great with the roadie in tow. The roadie blocks the camera as he clears the way for Double J down to the ring. In a stunning turn of events, the jobber here, or is he? Barry Horowitz is not in the ring waiting yet. We're actually going to cut to comments from Barry Horowitz. This is unprecedented, guys. I was on the edge of my seat, popping my ass off for this. Barry actually does a great job with his promo. And then we cut to commercial. When we come back, Barry Horowitz is in the ring, and Double J comes at him from behind to kick off the match. Barry is looking great. The moves are fast and tight, and Double J sells for him perfectly. There's just a brief miscommunication in the corner there where our performers briefly pause to clarify the situation, but the work begins again and is back to being fast and tight. I'm talking arm drags, slams, flips, pinfalls, takedowns, rope work, tosses, This is all looking fantastic from both workers here. Unfortunately, after a series of events, Barry hurts his knee, and Double J exploits it with a figure 4 leg lock, getting the submission and the victory. I have to say, guys, color me impressed. Joe, what did you think?
Well, yeah, Barry Horowitz getting an interview. What the fuck? Was what I have. That's my first note. I was both astonished and delighted to see that. Definitely getting his jobber push here. Ryan, he was a former jobber of the week, and I think you mentioned, was it during this time that he got his push? I think it was like mid-95, right?
Yeah, and into 96. Yep.
Yeah. So, I don't know. I mean, Barry Horowitz, to me, he's actually a better wrestler than half the roster right now. I mean, I'd put him up against fucking Adam Bomb and Mabel and all these other shitheads. Yeah, I really enjoyed the match. I think there was a point where the ref kicks the roadie? It looked like the ref got involved again, so we're getting more of that. So that, I don't know, that was stupid, but the match itself was great.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I got a little bit worried because when it started out, Vince gave us that familiar signal that it's going to be a jobber match by telling us we're going to be joined on the phone by the president of the 49ers, Cameron Policy. But that never ended up happening. They had technical difficulties, thankfully. So we don't cut away from the match, and he wasn't a jobber. I mean, like you both said, when we cut the backstage and we see Barry Horowitz cutting a promo, man, that's not a jobber action at all, And I got a good laugh when Cornette brought up his shoddy WWF career, saying, "What's your record? 0 and forever?" and Horowitz responds, my record isn't that great right now. Once that match started, he came out like a man possessed, and Double J was selling everything fantastically. And it was fast the entire match. And for a good portion of it, Barry Horowitz was in control. I mean, he was doing everything he could to fight his way out of that jobber territory. And I thought he did a hell of a job at it. Unfortunately, he wasn't going to win, so he hurts his knee, and then Double J is able to finally get the upper hand. But I liked this storyline, this story of the jobber who could. I mean, I guess he ultimately couldn't in the end, but
he's still owing forever.
But, he, like you said, a former jobber of the week. I wish that I could make him jobber again. And unfortunately, if anyone out there has looked along, there really is no jobber to cover. So sorry to burst anyone's bubble, but there is no jobber of the week this week. But I wish I could give it to him again because I loved that he got this little push.
Yeah, I'm on board with you guys 100% here. This was a very, very pleasant surprise right from the very beginning. And it was to the point where I was remembering his Jobber of the Week segment that you did for him, Ryan, and remembering the talk of him getting a push. So once I realized what was going on, I was there. I was engaged. I was like, oh my God, is this it? Is this where it starts? Is this where we get the brief but shining rise of Barry Horowitz? And unfortunately, that doesn't come about. But as we'll see later in the episode here, it doesn't seem like he's getting snuffed altogether. The action was great in this match. They worked together very, very well. I really can't put this over enough, both in terms of the technical ability that we saw in the ring, the storytelling that was going on at the very beginning and laying the groundwork of more or less, I mean, they didn't come right out and say jobber, but they more or less acknowledged that he's a jobber, with the whole record of 0 and forever. And we've now got a story for Barry Horowitz. He's going in as the underdog. We can finally stop talking about the fucking 1, 2, 3 kid that way. We've got a new underdog. All in all, I loved it. This was a fantastic match. Even though it was only 4 minutes and 40 seconds and Barry Horowitz did end up losing, there's nothing negative to be said about it at all. At all. The next segment that we will move to after that amazing match is some very brief promotional consideration paid for by the following, and this is Diesel hawking Slim Jims. It's horrible yet again. I don't think they've filmed an alternate one for him. I wish they would just stop with Diesel and Slim Jims altogether because it makes me hate him even more. I've got kind of a strong distaste for Diesel happening right now, and I don't want that to continue.
I thought you were talking about Slim Jims.
Yeah.
Oh, no. I love
Got
I
a
love
strong
Slim Jims.
distaste.
I don't spit them out whenever I snap one off. Back at ringside, Vince is going to highlight the recent events from that pseudo Rumble they had where they copied the finish of the Royal Rumble but substituted the King, Jerry Lawler, for Shawn Michaels. And I don't know if you guys noticed this, but I noticed that Vince took the opportunity to shout, "The King is dead!" when he thought Lawler had gone over the top rope. Leave it to Vince to try to get highbrow on some wrestling. And in an amazing display of mediocrity during that little aside that we saw, the footage from that pseudo Rumble, we got a quick glimpse of Mantar giving the master of the martial arts Quang one of the worst looking fucking headbutts I've ever seen in my entire life. I don't know if either of you guys noticed that or not, but
I wasn't paying attention to them.
It was horrible. You'd think that somebody that,
Maybe Mantar won that Rumble. Do we know who won?
British Bulldog won that, I thought.
Okay.
Next, we're going to have a backstage promo from Bret Hart. And I did not quote this verbatim. I didn't really quote it much at all here. But I did note that this is the kind of promo that I like from Bret Hart.
Yeah.
It's crisp. It's clear. It's got a great amount of passion to it. And as a matter of fact, it causes Vince to give us a whoa after it's over. He was very impressed with what Bret was laying down. We'll cut to a quick commercial and return to our first official WrestleMania report. Hey, everybody, it's Todd Pettengill. And wow, is that mullet looking bad.
So is that jacket.
Especially with that horrific suit jacket. And was that a Nehru denim blouse he was wearing underneath it? It was Nehru denim, I'm pretty sure. Horrible. So WrestleMania 11 is 3 weeks away, and something that you all need to note. I want you, Joe, you, Ryan, and all of our listeners out there in listener land to note that when you call your local cable provider, you need to ask for WrestleMania by name, because otherwise you don't know what you're going to get. That was quite possibly the stupidest thing I've ever heard this fucking jackass say. Who the hell calls up to order a pay-per-view, says, "Give me that pay-per-view," and then hangs up the phone?
You'd be surprised.
You think so? Did he really need to remind us that you need to ask for, call up and say, "I'd like to order WrestleMania, please"?
Have you dealt with the general public often?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, much
picture
more
some
than I
kid's
would
dad
like to
calling
admit.
in that has no fucking idea what it is. Give me that wrestling show.
Yeah, well, I suppose you're right. I think that the reason why I was so down on that particular statement by him is that I remember pay-per-view as a very specific experience. Ryan, I don't know if you did or not because of the cheater box.
So, well, I have a very specific memory of pay-per-view, too. I tuned in to channel 99 and it was on.
Yeah. Joe, I'm pretty sure you had a different cable company than I did. I had Adelphia. You had Armstrong, didn't you?
Yeah.
And so I don't know how it was like for you, but whenever I ordered pay-per-views, movies and sporting events and stuff like that, it was a phone number that you call that had a specific extension at the end of it so that you could not fuck it up. You didn't talk to a person. You dialed 1-800-123-4567 and then extension 123 for the event that you were ordering, and that was it. You were done. You never talked to a person. You got a little recording that said, "You have successfully ordered WrestleMania," and then it hang up. Was that like that for you, or?
I have no fucking clue. I never ordered a pay-per-view.
Oh.
Yeah.
I used to order tons of movies and tape them on VHS.
That was illegal.
Yeah, why would you do that?
I'm a horrible person. I don't know if you guys knew that or not, but I'm fucking I'm Jason the Terrible, remember?
That's right.
So Petting Zoo is going to compare the LT Bam Bam situation to Ali Frazier and Tyson Spinks in what is probably the single biggest example of hyperbole of all time. We'll have some rehashed highlights from the press conference at the Harley-Davidson Cafe in New York City before Petting Zoo shows us a graphic of the $1 Million Team And now that we have a football theme going here, it's not the $1 Million Corporation, it's the $1 Million Team. And now that team includes Kama. This is the official word that Kama is now part of the corporation. Just real quick, guys, please correct me if I'm wrong. This wasn't a thing the last time we watched Raw, right?
Yeah, last I remember, Kama was asking for harder competition.
Yeah.
Okay. Just making sure I hadn't missed something. Maybe it was a Superstars thing, who knows. LT's All-Pro team is half of the fucking NFL, guys. And did you know that this event is going to be chaos? There's going to be lawyers, agents, limousines. It's going to be a goddamn miracle if the National Guard doesn't end up being called out to deal with the sheer pandemonium that WrestleMania will be. Petting Zoo lets us know here that Grammy Award-winning Salt and Peppa will be singing LT down to the ring. And then Petting Zoo gives us an attempt at comedy by singing, "What a man, what a man, what a man, what a man." And it was just horrible.
What am I doing?
Cut to a paparazzi-style footage montage thing of Salt and Peppa in the recording booth looking great, both of them. Apparently they're there geeking out about the wrestlers that they'll be encountering. Salt is pretty excited about meeting Razor Ramon, while Peppa is looking forward to Diesel saying, "Big Daddy, come to Mama!" And both of them love Bret Hart. I am jealous. Diesel will defend the championship against Shawn Michaels with Shawn's bodyguard, Sid. True to form, though, Shawn Michaels is loving life with Pam Anderson, and now we're going to cut to a scene of the camera slowly panning up Pam Anderson's legs and then widening to see that she's standing with Shawn Michaels. And as the camera pans, Shawn is saying, "Look at this. Great legs, chiseled stomach, enormous chest. Tell me who has a sexier body than the Heartbreak Kid?" And Pam isn't too enthusiastic in response. Pam Anderson is just one of the many celebrities that will be hanging out in Hartford. We'll also have, at WrestleMania, The Undertaker meeting King Kong Bundy. Bret Hart will be meeting Bob Backlund in an I Quit match. Double J will defend the Intercontinental Championship against Razor Ramon. The tag team belts will be up for grabs, and the Smoking Guns will defend the tag belts against Owen Hart and a mystery partner. The Smoking Guns have already been defending their titles. Let's go back to Action Zone when they faced Men on a Mission. And Joe, is this the match that you may have referenced in one of your former news segments?
I don't believe it is. No.
Okay.
Because if you remember, Oscar is the one who got squashed accidentally.
Yes. I was hoping that we were going to maybe catch a view of that. But all in all, I mean, it seemed like it was a horrible match. What made me think of that is that we have the Men on a Mission jumping the Smoking Guns, and, Petting Zoo says the guns are okay, but we don't apparently know what happened with Men on a Mission. And I thought that was their way of kind of like whitewashing the fact that Oscar got legit squashed. Maybe just kind of...
Oscar died, and now Billy Gunn is dead.
Hopefully, Paulie J buried him for us. But on a more positive note, WrestleMania will have what is quite possibly the most potent tag team ever, which is ironic because I'm pretty sure steroids have negative effects on fertility. Made in the USA, Lex Luger and the British Bulldog Davey Boy Smith combining to become the Ultimate Force, taking on the Blue Brothers. But wait, there's going to be Hollywood hotshots there too. Pam Anderson, Nicholas Turturro, Jonathan Taylor Thomas, Jenny McCarthy, and supposedly the list of celebrities continues to grow. We hear the opening notes of Jerry Lawler's music, and Petting Zoo kicks it back to the ring. But before we move along, Ryan, what did you think of that teaser segment for our next match that started all of this, and then that enormous WrestleMania report that followed it?
All right, I will start with Bret Hart backstage. I agree with you completely. I really like Bret Hart in this promo. In the past, we've kind of shit-talked his promos. We've always praised his ring work, but his promos for the last year and a half have been kind of this soft, somber type of personality. But this was aggressive, and I thought it was much better. It was more believable, just all around. This is the type of promo Bret Hart needs to be giving. Moving on to that lengthy Todd Petting Zoo report. I don't have a ton to say. I mean, There was a couple good segments. I enjoyed the salt and pepper video with them gushing over the different superstars. That was good to see them. The Shawn Michaels, Pamela Anderson quick video, that was a good little short turn of events. Here he is talking about what you assume is Pamela Anderson, but no, he's talking about himself as she rolls his eyes at him. That was done pretty well too, but everything else just seemed like we have some time to fill.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with all of that. Bret Hart promo was pretty good, real solid. Todd Pettingizoo is terrible. The What a Man singing was just cringe. And Sean and Pam Anderson is funny because now they're talking about Pam being married to Tommy Lee, so it kind of kills the angle a little bit. But I thought it was well done here still. And yeah, rest in peace, Billy Gunn. What a way to go.
Yeah. I agree with both of you guys on all of this. Such a long report. I remember whenever I was getting ready to sit down and watch this episode and take notes, I thought to myself, there are 3 matches in this episode, and they come to a combined total of about 15, 16 minutes. What the hell fills the rest of the half hour's worth of time that we have here in Raw? And here it is. It's this WrestleMania report. It was enormous. It just kept on going.
Like that mullet.
Yeah. It just keeps on growing and growing. Pretty soon it's going to start saying, "Feed me, Seymour." All in all, though, it was informative. I will give it that. I'm not trying to be a complete asshole here about it. It was very informative and gave us a really good breakdown of the current state of affairs. Hopefully, though, this lengthy type report doesn't continue over the next 3 weeks. I'm just going to cross my fingers on that because who knows. But that lengthy and quite girthy WrestleMania report is going to take us into our final match of the night. Jerry the King Lawler with Bull Nakano defeats Bret the Hitman Hart by countout in 5 minutes and 36 seconds. Wait a minute. This is me doing my notes here. It's Bull fucking Nakano. I love Bull Nakano. She's apparently there to prove that the Japanese are on the King's side. And I had to note, I can't help but feel a little bit tingly at the sight of that Bride of Frankenstein-looking lunatic. God, I love Bull Nakano. After a brief commercial break, the Hitman comes out to a decent pop, and the King wastes no time in attacking the Hitman. Bret Hart starts laying it in, though, and Lawler takes the opportunity to run out of the ring and stall as much as he can. The Hitman has brought his aggression with him, and the King does nothing for the first couple minutes but try to get away from the Hitman as much as possible. As the work continues, we eventually get a creepy shot of Bob Backlund in the crowd. Kind of seems like nobody around him knew who he was, which I thought was kind of funny. They didn't need security around him, that was for sure. Vince lets us know here that Bull Nakano is currently the women's champion. Can either of you guys give me a refresher on when that happened? Because I honestly don't remember us ever talking about that.
We did, but they didn't show it. It happened in Japan, right?
Yeah, right.
Yeah. It
Okay.
It was a while ago at this point, though.
Okay. But it was nothing that we watched.
No, they just talked about it.
They showed the highlight.
Yeah, correct.
The highlight from the Egg Dome or whatever that place is called.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. But now, back at the ring, Hakushi and Shinja have appeared at the entryway, ominously watching the match. We'll have another commercial break and come back to the King in charge. I gotta say here, I'm not sure what to say about the work going on in the ring here. These guys are both excellent wrestlers, but at this point in this match, to me, it was coming across as a bit lackluster, lukewarm. At the point where Bret Hart begins to rally with a reversal from the top rope and a bulldog on the King from the corner, the King starts selling these moves kind of poorly, in my opinion, over-exaggerating, taking the Ric Flair style to a slightly unacceptable level with the way that he was shaking and reeling from some of these hits. As the action moves to the outside, however, Bull Nakano is here to the rescue, and maybe it's the simple fact that I love this woman with the passion of 10,000 rising suns, but I thought she did really well in her interference here, first pulling Hart off of Lawler, then with cowering and crawling away from Bret Hart, and finally with holding on to Bret's leg to keep him from entering the ring, and therefore being counted out by the referee, who just so happens to have not seen Bull Nakano on Bret Hart's ankle down below the apron almost underneath the ring. Bret Hart goes after Bull Nakano, chasing her around the ring and up the entryway, where she hides behind Hakushi and Shinja, Hakushi taking up a fighting stance while Bull Nakano gives her big psychotic grin and waves hello at Bret from behind him. Lawler has followed Bret out, though, and after a brief exchange, Bret Hart takes Lawler back to the ring for a beating, and Lawler exits while the Hitman's music hits. We'll have another quick commercial break, and after we come back, we'll have some comments from Double J, Jeff Jarrett, on whether or not he will accept the rematch challenge that was issued just a few minutes ago by Barry Horowitz. After another commercial break, we come back to a view of the arena where we're informed that next week on Raw, Razor Ramon will take on Henry Godwin, Steve Mongo McMichael will be there, and the Smoking Guns will defend their titles against the Heavenly Bodies. Vince is there at ringside with both Jeff Jarrett and Barry Horowitz, and Jeff Jarrett is not only going to give Barry Horowitz a rematch, he's going to make it a title shot. Double J hands over the contract to Barry Horowitz to sign, and as Barry is signing, or at least beginning to sign, Bob Backlund comes out of nowhere to put the chicken wing on Barry Horowitz. Double J is encouraging Bob Backlund, but this was not an assist from Bob Backlund. Backlund, after dropping Barry Horowitz, runs over and himself signs the contract for the title match against Double J Jeff Jarrett. We're going to fade to black on this episode, and on Jeff Jarrett throwing a tantrum. Joe, let's hear what you thought about that last match and all that happened after it, please.
I think that the match just left me confused. I feel that it fell pretty flat for the most part. It's just a setup for what appears to be maybe a Hakushi and Bret Hart feud. But, you got Bob Backlund coming out. You got Jerry Lawler involved. It's almost like they're using Jerry Lawler as like an indirect mouthpiece for Hakushi, because we have yet to hear anything from Hakushi or Shinja. Like, do they want to go after Bret Hart? Like, nobody knows. So maybe they're just using Jerry Lawler for that. I think using the racist angle is kind of weird. But I don't know. It's falling flat, and it's kind of disappointing because you have this huge star in Bret Hart and not really using him well right now. And this is also where Jim Cornette calls Bull Nakano a mere 250-pound woman. So that was pretty funny, but again, the match itself, I don't know. It just fell kind of flat for me.
Kind of an agreement here. The match could have definitely been better, especially with the two veterans that are involved here. It wasn't a terrible match. It wasn't bad. It didn't make me want to turn the episode off or anything like King Kong Bundy or Mabel was in the ring. I mean, it was nothing like that. But I do have to say, Bartlett, as soon as I saw Bull Nakano, I said, there's no way Bartlett's going to contain himself. That's one of my top notes. Soon as I saw her, Bartlett will go crazy.
It was nice to see her. I mean, it's been forever.
She won this belt, 3 months ago or something, and after that, it's been nothing. Yeah. So, definitely good to see her. I enjoyed this Hitman continuing his aggressive style. I thought the beginning of the match didn't look terrible. Lawler was definitely selling a little bit better in the beginning before he really started to ham it up and oversell some of these moves. And I think it almost kind of matched up with when we got a shot of Bob Backlund. It was like he ruined the match. We get that shot of Bob Backlund.
Just with his presence, he ruined everything.
Just with his presence, he ruined the match. And then I got a little bit excited because Vince lets us know that Barry Horowitz is asking for this rematch. So I'm sitting here still cheering for Barry to climb himself out of that jobber cellar. But the match itself, there's just not a lot to say about it. I'll end with, I'm happy to see the King, who we know is a longtime veteran, in a better match and feud than, clown bullshit or garbage man stuff. So I'm happy to see that. If we're going to have a match between these two great people, let's allow it to be something a little bit better than this just one-off gimmick bullshit match where we're just kind of pushing this racist angle. So I think that could have went a lot better. As far as the ending part with Double J, I was extremely upset that Bob Backlund is going to get this title match instead of Barry Horowitz. I mean, just devastated.
Joe, what did you think of that ending? You didn't say before.
I think they're doing a pretty good job with building up Barry Horowitz right now. It's only been 1 week, I'm looking forward to seeing where that's I'm looking forward to seeing where that's going to go because again, like I said, he's better than half the roster,
including Bob Backlund.
Yeah, I am going to agree with just about everything that you guys have said here. Once again, the theme of this match is lukewarm. It wasn't bad. It wasn't great either. I have to admit, though, I was a little bit disappointed. I knew that this was more or less just a vehicle for the whole racist angle thing. It was step 1 in getting us to step 2 and 3. But I really had some amount of hope that with two legendary professionals that we would have a pretty high quality match, even if it was just step 1, even if it was just the opening of this greater angle. I thought that maybe they would just, step it up or at least have some kind of standard of quality that they would both adhere to make sure that, like, even though, yes, it's just a setup match, we're still going to give it 190%, and that's going to be amazing. I didn't expect 190% necessarily, but I certainly did not expect the fucking, 60% or so that this was.
I think one thing that we're kind of not remembering here is, at this point, Jerry Lawler is well past his prime.
I don't know.
Sure he is. Age-wise, as far as wrestlers go, man, he's an old-timer. So I'm going to give him a little bit of leeway in that department.
I'm not sure how much I agree with that because we've had too much burying of the talent of Jerry the King Lawler. Like you mentioned, he's been doing the garbage man shit and the midget shit, and we haven't really gotten a fair view of what Jerry Lawler can do in the ring because he's been stuck doing everything else. He's been stuck propping up all of these shitbags that aren't good. This was a perfect chance for us to see that, but we've got this, we've got this 60% match. Joe, I since we're kind of Ryan and I are kind of disagreeing on this one, I would really like to hear what you have to say on Jerry Lawler at this point in time. You're a much stronger authority on wrestling history than the two of us, I feel, and I think that you would be a better view on this than we might.
Well, I mean, my view is that Lawler is, for the time that we have seen Jerry Lawler so far, from 93 until here in 95, that he's really just used for his mouth for the most part.
Yeah.
He had a match with Roddy Piper, and, we made fun of how it's like, it's the old timers in the new generation or next generation, whatever the hell it's called.
Yeah.
I think Lawler, to me, it's like, well, I know that he was a great wrestler at one point, but I kind of agree with Ryan. I'm not saying he's washed up, but I'm just not really noticing that as much as him being used for his mouth.
And I have watched some of his older matches. If you go on YouTube, you could find some of his stuff from the 70s and stuff. And he was a good wrestler. So, yeah, there's nothing to take away from that. I just think that he's old at this point.
Yeah, past his prime is certainly, I mean, that's what you said, and that is certainly true at this point, I think.
Okay. Well, I don't know enough to make a firm conclusion on that. I think really what I'm getting at is that we haven't seen, well, maybe, I guess, up until now. I was going to say we haven't seen anything that would really give us a solid indication, but this match might be it, unfortunately. Well, this is why I'm happy that we have the three of us here, because hearing the two of you talk about it, you're kind of turning me around on this. I'm not sure that I'm ready to agree with you, but I'll certainly be keeping this in mind going forward in the matches that we may or may not be seeing him in. He is the mouthpiece. He is, I mean, my God, he ends up becoming one half of probably the single greatest commentating team of all time. Would you guys agree with that?
Yeah,
at least?
absolutely.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's kind of hard not to hold Jerry the King Lawler to some higher standard, even if it's just because of that. You know, there's a significant amount of sentimentality and nostalgia wrapped up in him. So,
to the day I die, I will say, "Oh, puppies!"
Yeah, I mean, I will definitely be keeping you guys' comments in mind.
Yeah, I mean, this is a guy that had a huge legacy with Memphis wrestling as a wrestler, and he had a huge legacy as a mouthpiece for WWE for many, many years.
Yeah, like I said, I'm just not quite sure if past his prime is correct or not. And I'm not gonna argue it. I think you guys have made a very compelling case for it, but I'll suspend that for now and we'll just wait and see. But getting back to the match and everything that happened here, I mean, Ryan, you were right. I love Bull Nakano. My God, she was working pretty hard for us here tonight, kind of getting in the mix there with Bret Hart there towards the end and flopping around and trying to keep him out of the ring, and it was a good time. I am getting more excited for the appearance. I mean, I'm just guessing at this point, but the Bret Hart Hakushi feud, hopefully. I see some real potential there. And something that you guys both mentioned, Bret Hart's aggression here in this match. This is the kind of aggressive Bret Hart I like to see. We talked before a couple weeks ago about, I think it was Bret Hart in, what was that, a Double J Jeff Jarrett match, and then later on with his match with Diesel at Royal Rumble. He was being aggressive, but he was being heel level aggressive in those matches, and it put me off. I didn't like it. This kind of aggression, this kind of, I don't know if you could call it like righteous kind of aggression. Like, he wasn't being a heel here. He was being a pissed off babyface that had something to prove. This is the better aggressive Bret Hart, in my opinion. If we're going to have a meaner, faster, stronger Bret Hart, this is how I like to see him. That's really my biggest positive takeaway from this match, besides Bull Nakano, is the way that Bret acted throughout. As far as the shit afterwards, I was so disappointed to see Bob Backlund sign that contract. I wanted Barry Horowitz to get it so bad. And it's so funny that, like you said, Ryan, this is 1 week. Or I'm sorry, that might have been Joe that said that. Whichever one of you said it. It's 1 week of this story. And I'm already so emotionally invested in it. I want Barry Horowitz to fucking reach for the sky.
Yeah.
God damn it. It's real to me.
It's kind of reminiscent of the 1, 2, 3 Kids push, like when he came in.
Yeah.
It's like, let's get this jobber over.
Yeah. I mean, who knows? Maybe we'll have some good, ball-busting material for this Bob Backlund match next week, but whatever. At least we can kind of count on Jeff Jarrett to hopefully do well in it. But yeah, that's it. That's the end of this episode. So now we're going to take it on to highlights and lowlights. Ryan, why don't you get us started there?
So we just got done talking about it. Highlight, Double J Barry Horowitz match. I loved it. It's kind of the high point we've been talking about all night. Barry Horowitz and this match. Just his push and everything about it. I love it. It's my highlight. My lowlight is tying right into it. Fucking Bob Backlund. My low light is him taking the limelight from Barry Horowitz and signing this match and taking a match that I was excited for and turning it into something I dread.
Even if Barry Horowitz loses, we would rather see him than Bob Backlund.
Absolutely.
My highlight is just Barry Horowitz himself, not to take away from from Double J, but just Barry Horowitz. And also getting to see Bull Nakano again. That was nice. My low light is the continuing racist angle with Bret Hart. To me, again, it's just too confusing. It sort of reminds me of when we had The Undertaker feuding with the IRS during his feud with Yokozuna. It's like there's just too much happening.
And still never giving us any explanation as to why he's racist.
Yeah.
Yes. Nothing.
Yeah.
I mean, I look forward to a feud with Hakushi, but I feel like they could have gone about that a different way.
Yeah, I'm glad that you've brought this up because they did mention in this episode, well, they alluded to it because one of the times when commentary were going off about this whole situation, Vince McMahon directly challenges Jim Cornette and says, "What racist comments did Bret Hart make?" And Jim Cornette replies with, "I never heard him say it. Jerry the King Lawler told me he said it. That's good enough for me," which of course is, is the heel manager stance to take. But I think it just kind of highlights the fact that there is nothing that they can go back and point to. There is no foundation for this story. There's no nothing. It's all just pulled out of nowhere.
100% work.
Yeah.
Terrible storytelling.
Well, even if it was it's funny because we were just talking about this not too long ago, but the I Quit match that Mankind and The Rock have, where The Rock beats Mankind senseless and they get him on over the PA system shouting, "I quit."
I quit.
The story ends up being that they had recut audio from an interview where Mick Foley was saying the words, "I quit." I thought that they were going to fall back on something like that there was going to be some comment that Bret had put over in passing somewhere in some promo or vignette that they were going to deliberately take out of context and blow up to make it appear racist, but they're not even trying to do that.
Well, and I almost think that in that situation, Vince wouldn't want that because he wouldn't want any actual video or audio that may, even when taken out of context, allude to Bret Hart being racist. So that's why I think they don't show anything, but because of it, it just makes the storyline confusing.
Yeah.
Flimsy.
Yeah.
Not
flimsy is what
believable.
it makes it. Yeah. Really, I like the way that our discussions are heading on this because I'm glad that we're all on the same page there. It's unfortunate because we're seeing some good Bret Hart, but it's built on a foundation of lies. That was a bit overdramatic, sorry.
Dun, dun, dun.
Yeah.
Bad blood, bad blood.
For my highlights and lowlights, Barry Horowitz, the Jeff Jarrett match, I was popping my ass off from start to finish on that. Close second is Bull Nakano. If Bull Nakano had a little bit more screen time in this, she might be my highlight. But as it stands, like I said before, I'm fully emotionally invested in Barry Horowitz at this point. Which brings us to my lowlight. Barry Horowitz not getting a fucking Intercontinental title shot next week. I wouldn't have expected him to win it.
I think it's safe to say, I have to interrupt you here. I think it's safe to say we need to get Paulie J to get a fucking Barry Horowitz figure.
Yeah.
and put the big fucking gold on his waist.
I don't know if a Barry Horowitz figure exists, but man, maybe I could 3D print him one.
Yeah, please.
Yeah, I was going to say, I'm willing to pony up a little cash for some materials or a custom job or something.
This show is putting Barry Horowitz over more than anything ever.
But that's where we're at with this. And I think
my highlight is Barry Horowitz. My low light is Barry Horowitz not getting a title shot.
They got us invested, and then it was a cock tease. They pulled it away.
But you know what, though? The sad part about it is that this is where we're at in our emotional investment with the product in general. They can't give us this kind of caring with any of their other superstars. It took a jobber coming out of nowhere to get us this worked up.
A jobber who does good work in ring.
Oh, yeah. I'm not taking anything away from Barry Horowitz with that at all. But what I'm really getting at is that none of their current top-level superstars are good enough to get us this excited.
Yeah.
That fucking Jobber is, but Diesel sure as hell isn't, and he's got the fucking belt.
Well, this is a Cinderella story. You know, everybody likes a Cinderella story.
Yeah, exactly.
It works in wrestling. It works in sports.
It works anywhere.
So it's believable.
Everyone loves to see the underdog finally get his bone.
Yeah. Very, you know what? That's a great, great point, Ryan. Very well said. Bully for how well said that was. And I also think it's funny that we've spent more time talking about Barry Horowitz than any of the matches tonight or any of the other shit that's going on. I mean, this is how big this is for us right now. Just grasping at straws, a man trying not to drown. All right, so all of that being said, Joseph, do you have some contemporary wrestling news for us from on and around March 13th, 1995?
Yes, they teased Barry Horowitz as world champion just to see a reaction at a house show. Everybody booed and threw trash in the ring.
No, they didn't. You're bullshitting, aren't you?
No, that is a fake story.
Fake news.
Yes, a few real ones here, at least according to Dave Meltzer in the Wrestling Observer. WWF is now following the lead of WCW and adding 4 more pay-per-view shows this year. I don't know if we've mentioned it before, but I think everybody knows that the In Your House pay-per-views began in 1995. The first one, Meltzer is saying, will be on May 14th in Syracuse, and he is saying that it is being billed as In Your Home. So I don't know if they changed the name later or if he just made that shit up.
I'm going off he just got it wrong.
Yeah, maybe. Probably. The In Your Home pay-per-views will be approximately an hour and 45 minutes in length, and they are only $14.95 through pay-per-view.
That's good. I was just about to say they better not be charging full price for an hour and whatever, hour and a half.
And here's another interesting piece of this is that it undercuts WCW, who runs a list price of $24.95 for its non-Hogan pay-per-views. And they up the price to $27.95 for Hulk Hogan.
If Hulk Hogan is in the pay-per-view, you have to pay more.
$3 more.
Wow.
Yes.
Hulk Hogan is worth an extra $3 is what I'm getting from what you're saying.
I think what they probably did was they probably raised it $2 and he said, that doesn't work for me, brother. And they raised it to $3.
Wow.
Yeah.
Man.
Yes. So yeah, I always love, I don't know if you guys care as much as I do, but I always like to see the pricing back in these days just to kind of compare it to, what it is now. So
it does tell its own story.
Yeah, $14.95. I mean, you want to watch AEW, it costs you $50 now, but $14.95 is a pretty good deal for a pay-per-view.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Owen Hart, Bartlett, you mentioned during Petting Zoo's report that he will be having a mystery partner. I don't know if you guys knew this, but it was heavily rumored to be Chris Benoit.
I have heard that. Not in depth or from any major source, but I have heard that, yes.
Yeah, I don't know if that was just a total rumor or if maybe they were talking to him, but Chris Benoit obviously trained with the Harts, so I mean there's a connection there. He did end up going from ECW to WCW in 95.
I'm sorry, you're mentioning this person, Chris Benoit.
You should search him on the network.
I'm searching on the network right now, and I'm just coming up blank. Nothing.
I think it might be. Is it Crush? Is it Crush's real name?
Maybe. I'm having a tough time.
Oh, you bastard! I'm sorry. That's one thing that pisses me off is this the blackout of Chris Benoit. I know we're getting so far ahead of ourselves in time and
hey now. You can't talk bad on the network. WWE will come down hard on us. They are perfectly within their right to ban him. Way to go, WWE.
Well, what pisses you off more? Chris Benoit being unsearchable or Barry Horowitz never winning a title?
Oh, man. Apples and oranges, Joe.
Yeah.
Can't compare.
Last piece of news is that WWF is still on the search for new announcers. So, I don't know. You got Jim Ross right there.
Yeah. Jesus.
One of the things I noted earlier, I forgot to mention it, but during the Mabel sitting on a man earlier, Jim Ross is going fucking crazy during that.
Yeah.
And I'm seeing the highlight from Superstars. I'm like, hell yeah, this is like, I'm into this.
That brought me right
hell?
back into the Attitude Era, hearing him go crazy about a match.
Yeah.
But no, we got to get Cornette.
They're on the search. And that is all.
My God, a man's been broken in half.
This 9,000-pound man.
Somebody get medical help out here now.
Well, you know he was a lineman for Oklahoma. Boomer Sooner. Yeah. Well, thank you, Joseph. And that's it, folks. We're done with this one. I want to thank you again for joining us. And if you like what we're doing here and want to connect with us, you can find us on every major social media and podcast subscription platform by searching up the handle Wrasslin Raw. That's WRASSLINRAW. While you're there, don't forget to click subscribe to get every episode of Wrasslin Raw coming to you every week. Give us a 5-star review and let your friends know about the fastest growing wrestling podcast in the world. Next week on Wrasslin Raw, we're going to take a look at the Raw that aired on March 20th, 1995, with matches featuring Raven Clark, the Heavenly Bodies, and many more. So, for Joe and Ryan, I'm Jason, and this has been Wrasslin Raw.